Hey guys, what's up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So the Galio rework is public and it's gonna be coming to the live servers very soon. But his kit, especially his ultimate, brings sort of some, very interesting and new mechanics to League of Legends as a whole in terms of how they work and function overall. So for this video, we'll be going over several really cool and crazy interactions so you know exactly what he can do with his ultimate in certain situations in case you were ever wondering. Think of this as kind of the reboot of League of Myths. Now for this video series, I will be collabing with Vandiril, who has been a huge help in making this. He also has his own YouTube channel where he uploads plenty of videos testing these weird and wacky interactions for several things that you probably never even thought can happen. So if you enjoy these kind of videos, you'll definitely enjoy his channel. I'll link it down below in the description. Highly recommend checking it out. So if you guys end up enjoying this video, then let me know by hitting that like button. But let's not waste any more time and get right into the crazy interactions for the Galio rework. So the first one we'll take a look at is Galio's Q, which has the two winds come out from both sides, kind of like a double Diana Q, and Yasuo's wind wall. So this one is quite cool because first of all, Galio's Q can actually completely bypass the wind wall if thrown at the right angle, at which obviously there's no interaction. But what happens if only one of the two Qs hits the wind wall and the other one hits Yasuo? Well, that's what we test out next. In this example, you're gonna see Yasuo throws out the wind wall, only one of the two Qs gets hit by the wind wall, the other one touches Yasuo, but it does nothing other than the initial damage, and it doesn't create that gust of wind at that location for a few more seconds. And in this example, you're gonna see that there are also obviously cases of where not only does one of the Qs hit the wind wall, but the other one doesn't even reach Yasuo. So all in all, it seems like Yasuo's wind wall can quite heavily disrupt Galio's Q, but it's still very possible to not only completely avoid the wind wall, but to at least get a little bit of base damage on the champion you're trying to hit regardless. But as long as at least one of the two Qs is blocked by the wind wall, then it will not create that gust of wind at the location for a few more extra seconds. Alright, but what if we test the exact same scenario, but now instead with Braum's shield? Well, this one's a bit more interesting because even if both parts of the Q hit Braum, the shield will not only block both of them and do reduced damage, with the first one not doing any damage at all, but the gust of wind will not be created regardless. So it does seem like Braum's shield is essentially able to counter Galio's Q even better than Yasuo's wind wall. So in the first example, Braum took 0 damage from the Q whatsoever, but in this example you can see that Braum does take damage from the second Q since it hits just a little bit later than the first part. But the biggest thing to notice is the fact that it doesn't even matter if both hit because the gust of wind at that location will not be created, which is absolutely big. Now in the third interaction, we're going to be seeing if he can get about 100% damage reduction. Because here you can see Master Yi's Meditate, his W ability, can offer him up to 70% damage reduction, followed by Galio's ultimate offering allied damage reduction up to 40%. Combine the two, well, that's well over 100%. So in this example, Master Yi will simply use his W, Galio will ult him, and Veigar will just try to burst him. But as long as you're looking at Master Yi's HP bar on the top left, you'll notice that he is still taking damage regardless of having technically over 100% damage reduction. The reason for this is quite simple. The damage reduction does not stack additively, instead it actually stacks multiplicatively, so you can't technically get anything above probably around 80%. In the next example, we're going to be taking a look at the interaction between Kalista's ultimate and Galio's ultimate. And is Kalista essentially able to ult Galio out of his own ultimate while he's in the air? Well, the answer to that, as you can see, is actually no. The second Galio begins the animation for his ultimate and flies into the air and starts dashing across the map, he simply cannot be ulted by Kalista. Her ultimate is essentially unavailable, and by the time he usually lands to where he's going, there's a pretty good chance he's just simply out of range. So the very short answer is the fact that no, she cannot stop him mid-ultimate and ult him back into her. But what if we sort of flip the situation and instead see if Galio can use his ultimate on champions that are either in Zhonya's stance or reviving, so for instance Guardian's Angel? Well, as you saw just now with Orianna, the second she used Zhonya's, Galio was not able to target her with his ultimate whatsoever. So the answer to that question is quite obviously no. But is the interaction any different than trying to ult someone that's reviving from Guardian's Angel to be right there ready to protect them the second they're up? Unfortunately, you do have to wait for them to fully be revived from the item, and you cannot use your ultimate on them whatsoever until that point. Now his ultimate does specify that it targets allied champions, but does this also include allied champion clones? So in this example, trying to ult Shaco's ultimate clone. Unfortunately for Galio, he is simply unable to do that, which kind of sucks because that could be really truly the ultimate deception. But unfortunately, since that is not the case, you can't really deceive your opponents by ulting a clone purposely, so the answer to that as well, just like the previous ones, is unfortunately he cannot. So in this one, we're going to be combining two ultimates that are very similar, Galio's ultimate and Pantheon's. Well, unfortunately, as Pantheon is mid-ult in the air and going to his new location, Galio cannot interact with him whatsoever up until Pantheon finally lands at his destination. And you can see here on the right, Galio is consistently spamming his R button on Pantheon's icon, but it doesn't do anything up until Pantheon lands, not even at the very beginning of his ultimate either. Alright, but what if Shen tries to ult the Galio as he's ulting? What happens then? Well, first let's test to see what happens when Shen ults the Galio first and then Galio uses his ultimate. You can clearly see in this example, Shen instantly goes to Galio's position since Galio technically hasn't left it yet, appears there, and then Galio lifts off and then goes to his desired location, essentially swapping positions. But what if they ult at more or less the exact same time? Well, here you're gonna see as Galio uses his ultimate with Shen as well at, again, pretty much the exact same time, they don't actually swap positions and Shen just appears exactly where Galio is as he is in his ultimate. So in this case, at the exact same location. Now this next part of the video isn't necessarily going to be an interaction per se, it's going to be more of a sort of tip or trick with the Z. So here's the usual interaction with the Z where he just dashes back very quickly and then goes forward quite a distance and knocks his opponent. But because of the dash back, sometimes landing his Z from afar can be somewhat difficult. But if the target is very close, you can actually use the E backwards, and you can see here he'll actually still hit the target rather than having to dash that full distance. This can catch people off guard, people won't expect it, and it's also a very easy and almost a point blank way to land his E ability as well. Something to definitely keep in mind whenever you're playing Galio once he finally does hit the live servers. Now this very quick example will show you that while you're in the middle of your E animation, you actually cannot use anything up until the E animation is finished. So this obviously includes your other spells and it also includes your summoners, so you can't even use E flash to try and catch someone off. Now for his W, unlike his E ability, you actually can use summoner spells like flash to flash in and taunt someone very instantly and catch them off guard like you would want to usually with his E, but you're unable to. So his W does let you do that. But even with that being said, you still can't use any other abilities mid W. So this one is actually quite interesting. His ultimate, whenever you cast it, kind of like similar to a Camille ultimate, will give you invincibility frames as you're actually mid-ult. So in these examples, you'll notice how Galio, even though he's about to take a tower shot that would normally kill him, the second he ults, right the very second before the tower shot actually hits him, it doesn't hit him, it actually just completely doesn't work, and he's able to retreat safely, avoiding all damage. But now let's take a look at the interactions his passive has with on-hit effects. So for instance, maybe something like a Sheen. So it seems like with Sheen, it actually converts it into magic damage, and it definitely does work with the passive as well, adding quite a bit of extra damage, which is definitely an interesting interaction, but at the same time, very damn useful. Then we also have Blade of the Rune King. Now this one will deal physical damage in addition to magical damage as well, as you can see with the damage numbers that are showing up over the target dummy. And then just for fun, we also have Wit's End and also a Hydra at the exact same time, which all interact the way you would expect it to, the on-hit effects applying and everything working as expected. And the last thing we ended up testing out was Galio versus Azir's ultimate. Now this one works kind of how you expected, but also kind of interesting. So here you see Galio ults down, then Azir ults him backwards, and this one was kind of a very basic example. But what if Azir's ultimate is already out and then Galio ults right on top of it? Well, you're gonna see right here, Galio still lands literally right through the soldiers of Azir's ultimate, does his AoE knockup and stuff, and then he finally gets knocked back. Yet interestingly enough, if Azir ults just a tad more in sync with how Galio lands, it actually seems like Galio instantly gets knocked back rather than also landing, making the whole animation happen, and then getting knocked back slightly delayed. I personally found this one to be interesting since the interaction with this one and the one we just saw is very close, except one, Galio gets delayed then gets knocked back, but this one he gets knocked back the second he lands even though he still does the AoE. So very small, but also very interesting interactions here. Either way guys, that is about it for this video. There you have it, a whole bunch of 14 different types of interactions with the new Galio, mainly focusing of course on his ultimate because that's sort of the newest-ish mechanic involved in his kit, but also some cool things happening with his Q and everything else. If you did enjoy this video, then let me know by hitting that like button, especially if you want us to continue doing more of these types of videos for every new champion and reworks that are released. Big shoutouts to Vandiril for helping me create this video. Definitely check out his channel down in the description. But I thank all of you so much for watching and I hope to see you for the next one. Peace.